Tonight, could we soon be calling Whyalla Bay in a bid to boost tourism? And hundreds of burritos fly out the doors as fast food favourite Zambrero opens for business in Port Lincoln.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. A tourism group in Whyalla is calling on the community to consider using the name Whyalla Bay as a marketing strategy. While it doesn't want an official name change, it says a united name promoting Whyalla, Point Lowly and the southern coastline could be a powerful tool.
Whyalla, Point Lowly and Fitzgerald Bay are names this region is familiar with. But the local tourism focus group says the region needs a united brand the council and the state government can market.
So we're trying to just put it all together and say these are all the good things, all the strengths we've got about the city.
A recent workshop suggested introducing the term Whyalla Bay to encompass the whole area from Fitzgerald Bay down to Mount Young. It's received a mixed response on social media, with many accusing the group of renaming the city. The groups rejected that claim.
Absolutely not. Where anyone got that idea, it's a marketing slogan. Absolutely no intention of ever thinking of changing the name Whyalla.
She says we need to think outside the square in terms of promoting ourselves to the world.
Promote this city so we have a different industry. We've got a bay here, we've got Fitzgerald Bay, we've got all those places.
In a statement, Whyalla Council has welcomed the group's work and says it'll consider any proposal that'll better promote the city and surrounding regions. However, it doesn't want a situation where a tagline creates confusion over the city's official name. John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
The Cancer Council is taking proactive steps to help reduce the number of people smoking in the state. On World No Tobacco Day, the health body has implemented a number of measures to help support those wishing to quit.
It's an addictive habit, and today the focus was on ways to help those bud out. Coinciding with World No Tobacco Day, the Cancer Council has launched a revamped Quitline website with resources to stop the puff,
where there's a suite of resources through trained counsellors, online chats and a whole lot of evidence-based information.
In Port Augusta today, another Cancer Council-run initiative attracted more than 50 Indigenous people to Central Oval to engage with officials on strategies to kick the habit in local communities.
The men that were telling me were saying that yes, smoking is a concern and that a lot of people do smoke within the Port Augusta region, and it was something that they want to address.
Pete manages the Quit Skills program, which educates health professionals on ways to support Indigenous smokers through their quitting journey. And since it began, the success has been felt far and wide.
When it first started, we were talking about 55%, probably about 15 years ago, right across Aboriginal Australia, and we're down to about 38% now, which is fantastic.
One of the key messages out of today's workshop was the effect of passive smoke on both adults and children within the community. The participants took a strong approach to negate this, saying they'd like to see the Port Augusta Town Centre completely smoke-free. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
The state government has set an ambitious target of growing regional tourism by $1 billion by 2020, creating 1,000 jobs in the process. It's released a new strategy with our region a strong focus for the expansion.
From the outback to the sea, Regional SA offers a variety of unique experiences. 40% of tourism expenditure occurs in the region, and the state government is keen to expand. It's released a strategy to grow the tourism spend outside of Adelaide.
Both tourism operators and the Tourism Commission and the state government need to focus to deliver that extra $1 billion and more jobs for regional South Australia.
A number of local areas are key targets. For the Flinders Ranges, there's a focus on upgrading regional airstrips and sealing the Strzelecki track. There's also a push to market the region to European and North American baby boomer tourists.
A large number of baby boomers that are semi-retired with a reasonable disposable income. We don't want to put all our eggs in one basket.
Clare looks set to become a conference and event destination, drawing them away from Adelaide.
More people to think laterally about, a small conference somewhere. They don't have to be in Adelaide, they can be out in our regions.
On the EP, the government will continue to push the Seafood Frontier campaign. It's also looking to increase comfort for tourists, with a plan to add an extra 25 four-star rooms.
People like a little bit more comfort, a little bit more luxury. You want people when they're on social media saying they had a great weekend.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Well, the day has finally arrived with popular Mexican chain Zambrero opening its doors in Port Lincoln. More than 1,000 burritos flew out the door, with lines stretching out onto the street for most of the day.
Who wants free burritos? Port Lincoln certainly did.
I'm so keen for a free burrito.
Yes, it's great that it's finally in Port Lincoln. Yes, very yummy.
We probably have 200 or 300 people so far, and we'll probably give out at least 1,000 free burritos today.
Popular Mexican fast food restaurant Zambrero finally opening its Port Lincoln outlet today.
We really waited for this, and we're very, very happy with the restaurant. It turned out beautiful, and there's beautiful people, big lineup all day long, so we're very happy.
Even before the doors were open, a line formed down the street.
We had the line already out before 10 o'clock, yes, before we opened. Usually we'll be opening at 11 o'clock on normal days.
One of the outlet's selling points is that it's healthy fast food, aiming to make a global difference.
With every burrito or bowl we sell, we donate a meal to a child in the third world. We donated over 23 million meals by now, so we're very, very proud of that.
The business has already employed 30 locals.
Jobs in Lincoln are hard to find at the moment, and to have something new with so many employee opportunities is fantastic. It's been massive. I can't believe how many people in Port Lincoln have come out just for this.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, a tennis legend returns to the region to host a clinic with locals. That's next. Copper is on the mind of Whyalla Steelworks owner Sanjeev Gupta, last night revealing his interest in a copper concentrate plant. He says the proposed facility would create hundreds of jobs.
2.4 million tonnes of copper exported valued at 18 billion. We believe that Whyalla can justify and afford a new smelting and refining plant.
It's not the first time Whyalla has flirted with producing the product. 2 years ago, copper miner Oz Minerals proposed building a plant before naming Port Augusta as its preferred destination. Broken Hill City Council will be forced to pay back $5 million it was given by the BHP Billiton Foundation. It comes after council decided not to support the projects the money was donated for.
In 2016, the foundation gave City Council over $5.5 million to fund 2 projects: the digitisation and relocation of the city's archives and the construction of mineral and art parklets along Argent Street. But 2 years later, Council decided not to go ahead.
Because of the decision that we've made to move away from those 2 projects, Council is duty-bound or to honour its commitment to return those unspent funds back to the foundation.
It says it would have been throwing good money after bad if it went ahead with the projects. Upon signing the donation agreement, Council received half of the funding up front, but now the nature of the donation has changed.
So about $2.7 million we've spent roughly around sort of 400, so we're returning in the vicinity of about 2.4 to them.
The GM says despite not going ahead, Council's relationship with the foundation is still strong.
I have to stress that the relationship is really solid, and everything that's happening here tonight and that we're talking about has been endorsed, through BHP Billiton Foundation.
And Council says as it looks toward building a new library, the remaining $5.3 million of the donation would boost the project. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
The eerie grounds of the old Gladstone Jail are said to take a step back in time. Hundreds of people are expected to flock to a medieval fair this weekend, including some interstate travellers, in a bid to preserve the jail's history.
These empty and haunted halls of the Gladstone Jail were home to over 300 inmates in the 60s. But this weekend they're said to be filled with medieval fair-goers. Actors dressed in period costumes will spook the crowds, while blacksmiths will be spread throughout the grounds.
We've got about 75 stalls. We've got reenactors acting out a life in medieval time. We've got the army camp.
We have horse archery, but we also have archeries for the kids to come and try. I do believe we're going to have a joker running around so we can put them in the stocks.
Organisers are hoping to draw over 1,000 fairgoers through the tall iron gates each day, with people travelling across the country just to take part in the event.
about 4 or 5 of our stallholders are coming from interstate, so yeah, we've certainly spread the word.
The jail closed in 1975 and with its rich history, all funds will go towards installing new guttering to stop the rain from damaging the stone walls.
We needed money to put back into the old girl. She's starting to show her age now, shall we say. And yeah, a lot of work needs doing here and we don't get any help.
The 2nd and 3rd of June from 10 till 5. Please come along, enjoy. It should be heaps of fun.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Australian tennis legend John Fitzgerald has returned to his home region to deliver free tennis rackets to the next generation of tennis stars. The visit is part of a roadshow where vital equipment is being delivered to schools across the country.
A 9-time Grand Slam tennis champion, inspiring the future superstars.
I love coming back to Epinesa. It's where I grew up. I try to get back 3 or 4 times a year, but this is a special occasion to promote tennis and ANZ hot shots in schools.
It's fantastic for the kids to meet a local legend, John Fitzgerald from Cockaleachie, and for ANZ to give them all free tennis rackets for their receptions.
Today, reception students from St Joseph's School received modified rackets as part of a program aiming to give away 110,000 rackets by the end of the year.
You know, we for many years in tennis were a little remiss. We didn't have an entry-level program, but this has taken off like wildfire. It's an entry level that we use modified balls, rackets and nets.
It's all part of a push from Tennis Australia to inspire kids with the sport from a young age.
It's really working and we just want to have more kids with a racket in their hand playing a healthy sport.
And there were plenty of reasons for John to prove why tennis is the best sport.
I like tennis because it mixes both genders. It gives kids an opportunity from a young age to play a non-contact, non-threatening sport that can last a lifetime.
Tennis is fantastic. The kids just love it, and you don't get any better kids than tennis kids.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
After the break, dinner and a show. Port Puri students host the local community for a theatre extravaganza. That's next. Broken Hill councillors have supported a motion to join together with other local governments in the Far West. The Silver City will become part of a joint organisation, allowing councils across the region to work together.
It was a unanimous decision to form a united body. Local councillors voted in favour of the Far West Joint Organisation at last night's meeting, but it wasn't without some confusion. A debate about pulling out of the scheme if funding is reduced took place.
They wanted clarification around the exit process. Now, this is normal. It's been a continual issue about whether it was in the regulations when they wrote the legislation.
Councils in Wagga and Dubbo are yet to sign off. One local councillor said the city shouldn't hold up the bus waiting for more details about the exit process.
We found that the Western Initiative is not good. It wasn't the best way to go. This JO has been well documented and has been well presented, and the amount of money that each council is going to receive is far better than any other FAG grants or anything else we're going to get.
The JO allows councils across the region to share resources and ideas as well as discuss state issues. In the end, council voted to support the scheme but will wait for more details on how to pull out.
We want to make sure we have great opportunities with the JO, but we want to make sure that they're financially viable.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
John Perry Secondary School's theatre restaurant has been labelled as a resounding success. Year 12 drama students put on quite the show, while the audience indulged in a 3-course meal prepared by those studying food and hospitality.
A night full of Shakespeare and good hospitality.
What is Pyramus? A lover or a tyrant? A lover.
A Midsummer Night's Dream took to the stage for the school's 3rd ever theatre restaurant extravaganza last night.
He has this love for Hermia. He has been promised her hand in marriage, and she loves this other man, Lysander, who eventually she would run off with.
The tricky dialogue proving to be a challenge for some, with students practising since the start of the school year.
Do still have to use the traditional Old English. They are not having to deal with quite as much text.
Pretty much just muscle memory, just reading them over and over again until they're just burned into your head.
Trying to understand the circumstance of the scene and what's happening and show that through their emotions.
And while the play was getting underway, Year 12 food and hospitality students were busy cooking up a storm. Tasty lamb shanks and chicken with roast potatoes were on the menu for the main course. Their hard work in the kitchen going towards their end of year grade.
Sure, we have health and safety procedures, like we're all doing it properly, using the right chopping boards, techniques, making sure we clean as we go along, and presentation and how we work as a team.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Time now for fishing tips.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips. Gosh, it's the best time in the world to be alive. The rain last weekend set everything about, so we've still got plenty of squid. Yellowfin whiting have absolutely gone, but the salmon, trout and salmon are around the place. So remember we told you last week to go around to 3rd, 4th Creek. You'll also find them on Talawi Beach. Plenty of fish to be had. Snapper have still been a little bit fragile, but they do tell me in the deeper drops, you don't have to burley up too much. There is some big fish to be had.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel North. Well, cracker weather at the moment, and if you can't catch a fish, there's definitely something wrong. Lots of squid around down along the shacks, as you'd expect this time of year. King George whiting are really on the bite at the moment, and lots of those, although the puffer fish are sort of hammering baits there too. Lots of salmon around. Try the creeks like Chinaman's Creek up around Port Patterson. Crabs can still be found down that middle bank area. And also just keep an eye out. There's that big barge down there relighting those poles, so just keep an eye out for that. That's all we have from the Jewel North. That's over to Whyalla.
Still some really good numbers of squid down towards the Mount Young grounds, and along with them some really good sized King George whiting. The King George whiting have been a little bit thicker down towards Cowlard's Landing, a bit further south, and if you're willing to adventure a bit further south again down towards Menini, there's been some nice sized whiting down there, much bigger than the fish we're getting a little bit closer to town, so definitely get amongst those. Blue swimmer crabs have just about moved out now as the water temperature has dropped, and for the snapper there's been a few fish around there. If you know the drops down there, get out and have a look, guys. For the land-based anglers, a few silver whiting in front of the Foreshore Caravan Park.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, winter is almost upon us, but don't put the rods away yet because we've got some great fishing coming up over the next few months. Salmon have been one of the main species over the past week. There's been some good salmon caught down along the south coast of Port Lincoln. Back inside the bay, there's been some nice whiting in Proper. There's been some nice yellowfin whiting caught along the foreshore of Port Lincoln, stretching from the Lamani down to the town jetty. Moving over to Coffin Bay, the main fishing lately has been out around Farm Beach. There's been some patches of whiting out there. There's also been some good sized squid over some of the weed beds through that area as well. That's all for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Stay with us after the break. Amy is along with all the weather details. And Amy, is the fine run of weather going to continue into the weekend?
It sure will, Fraser, with sunny conditions forecast extending well into the weekend. I'll have the details next. Welcome back. It was another lovely day around the region with temperatures hitting the high teens, 18 the top in Whyalla, while Port Augusta and Port Puri were just slightly warmer. Time to check the satellite now, and patchy skies and a cold front in the southeast is bringing gusty showers. However, skies are remaining clear elsewhere under that high pressure system. If you're heading out on the waters tomorrow, northerly winds will shift northeasterly, picking up to 15 knots, while seas will reach 1 metre. The sun will rise at 7:15, while sunset is at 5:19. Fine conditions around the Spencer Gulf forecast for tomorrow after some chilly overnight temperatures, 20 in Port Augusta and Woodner, a cooler 16 in Broken Hill. Looking towards the start of the new week, and those mostly sunny days will continue in Port Lincoln with tops of 19, maximum sitting in the high teens in Cleve, while Woodner is set to warm up slightly with temperatures in the low 20s. Whyalla will have a cooler start to the week, reaching 16 on Monday. A few degrees warmer in Port Augusta in the coming days, with Kadina also set to experience fine weather into next week with a top of 17. After reaching a high of 20 late on the weekend, Port Puri can expect 17 early next week. The cooler days will continue in Clare, with maximum sitting in the mid-teens, with similar conditions forecast for Broken Hill. So Fraser, it's shaping up to be a lovely weekend to get outside and enjoy some sun.
Thanks, Amy, and that's the local news this Thursday. Thanks for your company. Good night.